Welcome to the Fix My Insurance Agency podcast. Each podcast will share the conversations, best practices, experiences, and influences that have generated over $1 billion in insurance premium. So sit back and let us help you fix your insurance agency. Hey guys, this is Billy Williams. I absolutely appreciate you guys being here today. I'm always excited and honored that you would spend time with us. And this is the Inspire a Nation Business Mentoring Fix My Insurance Agency podcast. You know, one of the things that I try to do with Inspire Nation is to find the best tools, resources, everything that an agent needs in order to be successful. Yes, we do mentoring, and yes, we have our own video library, and yes, we do all this. But my grandfather used to say, the reason why there's a church on every corner is because on every corner, somebody needs a different church. So that's how I look at life. But there are some amazing consultant programs that are out here that I want people to be aware of. And Mick and I actually work together on things. We have joint customers that maybe come to me for that overall leadership, mentorship, having access to our video library, things like that. But then they go to Mick when they actually need it put in place. So the way I look at it is I'm the surgeon, but I'm not doing your rehab. That's Mick that's going to do your rehab. So that's how we kind of work together on this. So with that being said, Mick, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell us about you, and then I'll get into some questions.
Awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. I know you don't really know this. I've never told you this, but you've been my mentor from afar forever. I've followed you on LinkedIn. I've seen hundreds of your podcasts and YouTube videos. So you've been an inspiration to me. And so I just want to thank you for that. You know, I met you for the first time face to face in October and you let me down. We were at dinner and I saw you come in with the Cowboys hat on and I just said, I can't do this anymore.
Hey, it's a religion. Being a Cowboy fan is a religion.
It is. So congratulations on your new coach. I don't know how excited you are about Mike McCarthy, but we're
excited about any change. Any coach that doesn't clap all the time, we're excited.
Just doesn't clap, right? There you go. Now, so again, I appreciate you having me here. So a little bit about me. I've been in the insurance industry now. God, I'm starting to feel old when I say 19 years. Pretty much fresh out of college. I started as a sales manager for a nationwide agency with an agent who had a goal to be the biggest, baddest nationwide agent on the planet. Didn't have a process to get there. That was just his goal. I said, okay. I said, so how are you going to get there? And he looked at me square in my eye and said, that's why I hired you. I said, all right. So we went from about $8 million in premium to 4 years later, over $20 million in premium, from 2 locations to 10 locations, all by developing a plan, nothing spectacular, just having a plan, a process that we could replicate and hold people accountable for. After 4 years, I decided I wanted to do that on my own. I saw the success that we were having and I felt like I could do that. So I built together a plan and moved down to Jacksonville, Florida. Didn't know a soul except my in-laws at the time. And half the time I didn't want to know them. So I literally knew no one in the Jacksonville area. Moved into a shopping center where there was Publix as the anchor, a big, large grocery store, a new shopping center. I was 2 stores down from Publix. And my marketing plan was I wanted to be ingrained in that community. And if I had a sign that said insurance, people were going to come in. That didn't happen. People in Florida don't care about insurance like that.
Right.
So after 4 months, I closed. I closed my office for 30 days to build a new plan. And what I decided was I no longer needed to be the owner, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the star quarterback. I really needed to build a team, and I wanted to do it what we would call now digitally. I wanted to do it all over the state of Florida and 7 other states that I was licensed in. So I built together a new plan, and 3 years later, I was at nothing, or I started at nothing and went to $3 million of revenue. So not premium, but revenue. Just by having a solid plan. I was approached by a large broker, and they made me Godfather movie, An Offer You Can't Refuse. They made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. They essentially wanted the systems that I had in place and for me to come on and do that for them. And I didn't want to be a part of a corporate feel. So I sold the agency, and then went to go work for a larger MGA that I inherited about just under 50 million of revenue. And in 4 years grew that to 75 million of revenue. Okay. Same thing, just putting in processes, procedures, and flows that everyone could follow. And did that for a while and then moved back up to the Carolinas to help the agent that I was working with before, a nationwide agent, to help him start this independent path. A lot of the all the nationwide agents now are going to be independent by July of this year. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to get ahead of that 3 years ago. And we did that, got him into the Nationwide Hall of Fame. And he's still one of the biggest, baddest nationwide agents to this day. That led me into a relationship with the Big I of North Carolina to kind of help other agents accomplish what I accomplished, that growth method. And that's kind of what got me here today.
Good. The thing I like about your story, Mick, is that it's very similar to mine in that we're not consultants.
Right.
We actually were agents who sat in the desk, who had to make the decisions, who failed, who succeeded, right, who hired bad people, who hired good people, who, went through all these things, who lost money, who made money, and all these kind of things. Right. And so when we're talking to people, we're not talking from I heard the guy down the street is doing this. We're talking from, we know this works because we made it work or we made it fail and figured out that it didn't work.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I like about you. The other thing I like about you, there's so many of these, what I call workshop heroes and stage heroes. They stand up there and they're like, oh, and I do this and I do that and I do that. And they got $3 million in premium after 15 years.
Right.
Premium, not revenue. 3 million in premium after 15 years. Or whatever. And that's not the dog.
2 million of that.
What were you saying? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Their dad passed down 2 million of that 3 million in premium.
Yes, I'm successful because my dad and my grandfather and whatever else did this. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just tell people the truth. Tell them how you truly got there. No one seems to fail. I remember when I was in the Army, they used to tell people when we go through our career counseling and all that, we're going to get out. They say nobody has any weaknesses on their resume. You know what I'm saying? Every resume makes you perfect.
Right.
And you're not perfect. You're not. I have made so much money in this industry and I have lost so much money in this industry. I've wasted so much money in this industry. I've wasted so much time in this industry. I've bought products that were crap products that I've made decent products, and I've bought really good products that I didn't know how to use and turned them into crap products.
Right.
And so now I'm watching agents that love technology and they're buying every piece of technology under the sun, but they don't have a process.
Exactly.
And so in our questioning today, one of the things I want to talk about is process, but I'll start with this conversation that I have, which is technology should enhance your existing processes. They should fit into your existing processes. You shouldn't buy technology to create a whole new process.
Agree 1,000%. 1,000%.
Okay.
And I tell agents to be wary of technology companies that are using you to get to your clients.
Yes.
Because a lot of these technology companies created this product for the end user first and got no traction with that. So then they said, oh, insurance agents will buy anything.
Yes.
And then they're using the insurance agent as a means to an end to get to the end client.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They want to be a Salesforce one day. And the only way they can do that is go through the insurance industry to get there.
Right.
All right. So let's get into some hard-hitting stuff. What is the main problem that you solve for insurance agents and agencies?
Putting together the accountability from processes, right? You hit it on the head where you're the surgeon and I'm the rehab facility, right? A lot of agents know what they need to do. They don't do it.
Right.
Right. how many agents do you and I work with that they have all the answers, they never take the first step? Or as I call it, they like to say, Alexa, make my agency grow revenue, and they expect Alexa to go do it for them, right?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So, through the Big I, what we offer is mentorship. I don't like the word consulting. That's kind of what the Big I calls it, consulting services. I like to call it being an agency partner, right?
Okay.
So you partner with me, and I'm going to bring on 3 different verticals. The first one being strategic and financial planning. So do you have a business plan? A lot of agents don't, right? It's scary. Are we looking at data analytics? Are we looking at the reports that we get from our management system, from our CRM, from our phone system? A lot of times that answer is no. So I help bring that information to the agency so that it's visual in front of them. The biggest vertical that I'm using right now is sales management. So are we having sales meetings? And when I say sales meetings, I mean sales only meetings.
Okay.
Right? I'm not talking about we're having a team meeting or an operation meetings and sales is a component of that meeting. I mean a true sales meeting. Harvard Business Review came out with a publication last year that said companies, not just insurance companies, but companies that hold sales meetings monthly, on average, see a 5% boost of their revenue. So if we just have monthly meetings, we can grow 5%. That's not rocket science.
Right.
So I'm bringing that on board. Producer coaching, pipeline development, producer reporting. I work with agents who they don't know what their quote ratio is, let alone their close ratio, but their actual quote ratio. And then the last one is workforce management, where we're going to go in and help hire, recruit, train, onboard new hires. We're going to do some leadership development. We're going to do some workflow and pipeline improvement as well from there.
Okay. Excellent. So those are the main problems that you saw. When I built Inspire Nation, my goal was to put together a library of information that an agent could go in and just access. So I'm going to jump over here real quick and just talk about some things that you said. So you said you do a meeting. Well, we have this thing that we call our production meeting, our production forecast meeting. This should look like. So I'm going to type in the word production here. For those of you that are on the podcast, you're not seeing what I'm doing, but I'm typing in the word production and it pulls up production forecast meeting. And then here are the goals for the production forecast meeting. I actually do a role play of a forecast meeting, and then I have a checklist. So I'm just going to open up the production meeting checklist. And on our checklist, we want to know who the hot prospects are, what products are they going to close, when are they going to be contacted, and how are they going to be contacted? Are you text messaging them? Are you emailing them? How are you contacting them? Are there any questions or training that you need? What do you need to help close this deal? So I'm assuming that that's pretty much the same thing or similar to what you do when you go into an office. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And the great thing that I like about what you just did is that you have something that producers are held accountable for.
Yes.
So it's not like, hey, we're just going to have a meeting. Hey, here's a checklist. You need to come to this meeting with information. And one of the things that I teach agency owners is how to hold sales meetings as well too, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of times you just sit in a room and you go over the same information that you went over the last month or the last quarter, and there's nothing new that's brought to the table. So I love the fact that you have templates and forms and actual processes for that, because again, these are things that you and I both know agencies need.
Yep.
But they're not doing.
So here's what I had a podcast with Ryan Hanley, and Ryan was saying, well, Billy, the reason why agents don't do what you want them to do is because in their mind, they're like, well, the only option that I have if Sally doesn't do this or Bob doesn't do this is to let them go. And I'm never going to let them go. They've been with the agency for 10 years, 15 years. All the customers love them, They're never going to let them go. So I implemented this thing called enhanced pay, which I think you and I talked about before. Enhanced pay is maybe your salary is $50,000 a year, but only 40 of it's guaranteed. If I spot check your activities and I see that you're not doing those activities that are important to the agency, then I can remove a portion of your pay because you're only guaranteed 40 of the 50. The other 10 is variable, like an athlete. So I want to address this in 2 points. Number one, what is the main reason that you see that agents are not actually making these implementations? Even with you sitting there holding their hand, they're still not implementing. And number two, what are some of the things that you're putting in place to really motivate or inspire them to continue making these processes you suggest or doing these changes you suggest?
Yep. So the first part, I think part of it is how our agents became agency owners, right? Like a lot of times the agency owner was a great producer somewhere else. So they were a salesperson.
Okay.
They didn't really have the skills from an HR standpoint. They didn't have the skills from a management standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. They know how to sell. They know how to push, right? Or they inherited their agency from a generational standpoint. So again, that whole leadership trait isn't what got them to the ownership side. What got them to the ownership side is sales, right? Like if you go to an exclusive agency or an exclusive carrier, when you're going through the interview process for ownership, all they talk to you about is your sales. Right. What have you done from a sales standpoint? No one asks you, talk to us about your leadership skills. There's not even a leadership academy at a lot of exclusive carriers, right? Let alone the independent side. So I think part of the issue is just they've been so sales ingrained, so push ingrained that they don't understand, and they're afraid of those tough conversations where what makes great agency owners, great business owners and leaders are they're always going to make the right decision, not necessarily the popular decision, right? And I think when you're a sales oriented person, that popularity contest is ingrained in you. So you don't like those conversations. You don't like invoking change into your staff, invoking processes and procedures, and what I think is the biggest key is accountability, right? We don't ingrain that in. So that's the first part of that question. And then the second thing, what do I do to keep them motivated, is we have weekly touch points where we're going to talk about where you are, what went right, what went wrong, how can we improve? Because if you don't do that, people are going to fall to the wayside. You're not really going to evoke change if you just make a blanket statement and walk away, right? So I become that accountability factor that makes sure, if you're working with Dr. Billy Williams and he said, these are the first 3 steps that you have to do, let's do these first 3 steps, right? Gotcha. Let's talk about them. Let's make sure that they're getting done. And that's why the clients that work with you, that work with me, it's a perfect marriage, because I'm making sure that they're doing the things that you do, because there's no secret sauce in what we do. Right. I think a lot of people assume there's secret sauce. There's no secret sauce. You just have to have a plan and execute that plan to a T.
Consistently execute that plan.
Exactly. And you talked to me about this when we met face to face. It's about changing or enhancing your behaviors.
Yes.
Right. Anybody can change their mentality. Right. We just had New Year's. Everyone wants to lose weight. Right. But are you going to put the behaviors in place to go lose weight? Right. I know in my mind, I need to go lose weight. That's not a problem. My mentality's changed. Right. But my behaviors might not have changed. So until you're changing your behaviors, and that's really what I start doing with the agents, is changing the behaviors, but having that weekly accountability, because that's the big key.
Okay, that's that brings up 2 key points that I want us to have a conversation about. Accountability. So my team calls our mentoring agents every week. We call them. And they avoid our phone calls. They tell staff we're not here.
Wow.
I mean, we literally will say, hey, okay, we're calling from Inspire Nation. We need to talk to whoever And this is not just the agent. We're talking the people, because one of the things I learned early was that dealing with the agent was not the most effective way to change our agency.
No, you've got to have those key staff.
Right. Dealing with the key staff was the most effective way. But even the key staff avoids our phone calls, doesn't respond to our emails. didn't get our text message. How the hell you don't get our text message? I don't know. But I hear that.
Right. Right.
I hear that. Oh, I must have overlooked. No, you didn't. You just didn't want to be held accountable or fussed at because you know you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So how do you deal with that avoidance of accountability?
I don't give an escape. So we have a calendar invite, and the calendar invite might be phone call or whatever, but once you accept that calendar invite, you're held accountable, right? And if you miss that meeting, that's on you, and your agent's going to know about it. And after you miss a couple, my recommendation to that agent is this is not a person that you need to work with. I don't care what they're doing in the office. You hired me for a reason, right? And my recommendation is this is not a person that can move forward, because at the end of the day, you're going to have people that accept it, people that don't accept it. You can't be afraid. I don't care how great you assume a person is. Actions speak louder than words.
Yes. And I hear that all the time. Oh, Sally's great. She's amazing. And then we'll go in and we'll check Sally, especially if it's an agency I'm investing in where we're sending a forensic accountant, we're sending all this, and we'll go in and we'll check something and we'll realize Sally's been BSing you for 10 years. Sally has no clue how to do this. Just you never checked her. You never spot checked her. Okay.
Yeah. I have an agent that I met with yesterday who has a decent commercial account, and they have this one CSR that works this account pretty much exclusively. I don't know why they did that for her, but that's kind of what they did. She is one of the worst employees, and they admit that she is one of the worst employees and has been for 10 years. They keep her because they're afraid they're going to lose that account. Because if she goes, the account might leave. I said, well, that's your problem as the agency owner, because you should never have one account dependent on one person ever.
Yes.
So you're keeping a person that you're paying $50,000 a year for, who you are telling me is your worst employee. It makes office life miserable. You've burned and churned 10 other people to make this one person happy, but you won't make the decision on that person.
You know, and I think a lot of that has to do with what you said. Of course, they never were designed to be leaders. They just happen to fall into that. But also, a lot of agents, they start to get held hostage by their employees because the agent doesn't know how to spot check. The agent is so far removed from the actual day-to-day operations of the agency that they can't even go in and hit a button because they don't even know what that button does. They're just dependent on Judy to do that. So agents, be really careful of this. You need to have someone who's on your side. So let me put it this way, Mick, and I think you and I talked about this. If not, I'm sure we will at some point. When I invest in an agency, there are two positions I fill immediately. First position is I put in a marketing assistant because I need to know that somebody is totally dedicated to marketing. That's all they do. That's their sole focus. That's their 10, 15 hours a week, whatever. I don't want them doing endorsements. I don't want them pulling loss runs. I don't want them doing renewal calls. I only want them marketing. So that's number one.
Correct.
The second position I feel is an operations manager. Even if you have an operations manager, when I invest in your agency, I'm going to put my own operations manager in that agency, whether they coexist or whether mine becomes the priority operations manager, because I need someone in that agency who is committed to me and my vision, what I want out of that agency, not just committed to whatever is going on. So I'm going to break it to a sports analogy, going back to my Dallas Cowboys. Okay. Jason Garrett was a Jerry Jones guy, which is why he was there for 10 years with an average record.
Correct.
8-8. He pretty much was, he'd have one good year, 2 bad years, but it's pretty much averaged out to about an 8-8 record. But what he was loyal to Jerry's vision of making the Cowboys the most famous and wealthiest sports organization in the world.
Correct.
If you happen to win a Super Bowl, great. If you happen to get to the NFC Championship game, great. But if we put another $50 million in revenue on the books, that's a victory.
Job well done. Right.
Job well done. There you go. And Jason Garrett was, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, and Jason Garrett was the perfect guy for what Jerry Jones was trying to do at that particular time.
Right.
Agents don't have the perfect employee a lot of times for what the agent wants to accomplish. They have people filling the desk. They have people that are answering the phone. They have people that are processing the paperwork. But they don't really have that vision or that person who shares your vision for what you want to do in the agency.
Absolutely.
And until you have that, it's never going to happen. So Mick, you and I can go into these agencies all day long and paint the vision and, put the processes in place and do whatever else. But when we walk out of that agency, what culture is in place? Because culture eats plans for lunch.
All day.
Okay. Culture eats plans for lunch. So agents, if you're serious about trying to make sure what Mick does and what I do and what other people are doing, you have to put the culture in place. And the culture starts with the plans, starts with the processes, but it starts with having someone who shares your vision.
Exactly.
So Mick, for us, what I won't do is I won't ever work exclusively with an agent. Well, I will if you're the only agent. Like you're just it. You're by yourself. You're a one-person shop. But if there's two people in that agency, I want that other person involved. So
exactly.
How are you dealing with that on your side, making sure that you're finding the key person that you really should be working with outside of the agent?
Yeah, so that's part of my interview process with the agency owner before we even sign a contract. I need to know who your key personnel are. I need to know what your vision is and what goals you have for the future. And then we talk about things that agents really don't grasp. I talk about expectation, right? It's one thing to have a goal, and a goal is just that. It's a goal. What's your expectation? And then what's your standard, right? What's your accepted norm, right? Because I need to know what that is before I walk into any office, into any call, into anything, because I need to know what I'm getting myself into.
Right.
Because if your standard is low, we're not going to be a good fit because I'm coming in at a 10 from day one, right? If your standard is a 2 or a 3, we're not going to mesh. And I need to figure out what you can do in the interim before you sign a contract to get to that at least 7 or 8 from a standard standpoint. Gotcha. So again, my interview process, I find out all that information up front just so that we can then start to build our 60-day plan. Because as you know, the first 60 days is where you really start to see progress. Yeah. I tell people all the time that I work with, I might have 15 things that I bring to the table, but for the first 2 months, for the first 60 days, we're only going to focus on 2 things and 2 things only. And we're going to do that very well. And then we'll move on to the next thing.
Right. Because you need that momentum. Momentum leads to more momentum. And a lot of agents try to put too many things in place right up front, so they have no momentum for anything.
Right. And then they get nothing done. They try to do 10 things and they get to 20% on all 10, and then they blame you and I because it didn't work. Well,
right.
No. We told you to focus on this. You tried to do everything that we told you we'll get to later. It doesn't work that way.
So then let's start with this. So when you walk into an agency, give me the first 2 processes that you tend to put the most energy into.
So the first thing is producer coaching. So I start with the producer analysis because here's what I've noticed with agencies. We have producers, salespeople in roles that they're not equipped for.
Right.
So I do an analysis of the producers, and I make recommendations to the owners. Well, first I get a little bit of background. So show me some historic data on these producers, and you'd be surprised how many producers are paying a salary that over a 2-year span is more than the actual premium that some people have written.
Yep.
So I do a producer analysis. I focus on producer coaching and pipeline building for our commercial folks first. So those are the 2 things that I really focus on putting in place is how are we going to build our pipeline and how are we going to coach these producers to be actual producers? Okay.
And what's so funny is you would think an agent would just go, oh my God, this is amazing. I want them to be able to tell me if my producers are really generating the revenue I think they're producing. I want them to tell me if they're really doing the work that I think that they're doing. But how many of those agents actually avoid or deny the facts that you put in front of them?
Oh, 70%. 70% day one are like, oh no, John's been great. It's just we haven't been able to get him focused, or he's tried to do too much, and therefore he can't close deals because I put too much on his plate. And that's bullcrap, right? John's not great because John's not trying to put the behaviors and activities in to be successful. And you as the agency owner have given them excuses and outs, and they know that because there's no accountability. You can't tell me somebody that's been making $50,000 for 3 years, their book of business is $100,000, that's okay.
But the agent's like, well, I'm able to pay my bills, so I guess it's okay. I'm able to pay my bills. Okay. So those first two things. Now let's go granular. Like for me, the first actual process that I want an agent to do is I want them to load their email templates, because I need to start the conversation with the customers different than just in the office. So I always start with email templates first before I ever try to change that person's behavior. So looking at it like that, granularly, what's the first granular level thing that you put in place besides just the looking at their workflow or something like that?
Yeah, so the first thing is developing a niche market. And again, I'm doing it from a commercial standpoint because a lot of the guys I'm working with right now, the big thing is commercial. So developing a niche market, and that's during the interview process with the producers. What is it that you like? What is it that you're writing, right? So how can we develop what you are naturally able to have a conversation about into a niche market for you? So we go in and we do some studies and research. So, I use Zywave a lot as a training tool.
Right.
So if you tell me that electrical contractors is a niche market that you want to develop or is your niche market, we jump into Zywave, and there's 3 or 4 templates inside of Zywave that I coach you on about that market so that you can become a subject matter expert from there. And then we start looking at, all right, so how do we sell to an electrical contractor? What conversations do we need to be having? And we start developing that plan. And then we start putting together action items. All right, so if our overall goal is to do 500,000 of new business this year, we back that into what does that look like from a monthly basis? How many phone calls, how many emails, how many association meetings do I need to attend to get to a prospect number that I can actually get down to a close level basis?
Yep.
So we work from big to small, but then all the actionable items that go into that.
Oh, excellent, 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 excellent. So I'm going to show you a tool. I'm going to pull up this formula sheet and show you. And I'm showing you because I know that you have these tools, but I also think there might be some tools that we shared with you that might be pretty good. So I'm going to pull up this spreadsheet. You were saying you sit down and you look at them and you look at electrical contractors, and let's say you know that in order for them to get the amount of appointments that they want, they need to do 25 of these association meetings. And of that 25, they'll actually talk to, 15 contacts. And then that'll lead to 8 qualified quotes. And that'll lead to 5 sales. So this sheet, this little formula right here, it's just a spreadsheet. It tells us if I wanted 40 sales, I need to do 200 of these meetings.
Right.
If I wanted 75 sales, I need to do 375 of these meetings, and it gives us our cost of revenue, cost of labor, cost of all these kind of things. And the reason I'm bringing that up is to say, agents, you think that what mentors and consultants and all this stuff does, oh my God, we have some magic bullet or some magic pill or something. We don't. We all do the same things pretty similarly. We do it pretty closely. It's just we do it. That's the difference. We do it, and we've done it in the past. Right. So we know what works. Absolutely. Right. We know what works. So I've had this sheet probably 15 years, this little spreadsheet that I use, and I still use it in agencies today. So guys, when you hire Mick and to come in, he's going to come in with some amazing tools. He's going to come in with some amazing processes. But at the end of the day, what he's going to come in with is common sense. And he's going to come in with accountability. And he's going to come in with action.
And that's what it takes. And action is that key word, right? Because, without action, you have nothing. And the one thing that I love about your sheet, and it's something that I do as well on mine, and I talk to agents about, is your column C, qualified quotes.
Yes.
Earlier I talked about quote ratio. I was with an agent and I said, what's your quote ratio? He's like, what do you mean? I said, so what's your pipeline look like? He's like, oh, well, I've got, 1,000 prospects in my CRM. How long have those 1,000 prospects been there? About a year and a half. All right. So out of those 1,000 prospects, how many have you quoted? Oh, well, I haven't quoted any. So then you have a 0% quote ratio.
Right.
When I explained that to him, I said, it's not about the number of prospects. Like you get salespeople that aren't in our industry that come in and talk about prospects. Yes, you need prospects, but you need qualified prospects to give you qualified quotes. Because again, 1,000 prospects means nothing if you're quoting none. If I could bring you 50 qualified prospects and you quote 40 out of that 50, that's much more dangerous and much more efficient than having just a list of 1,000 people that you're going to do some email drips on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me 2 technology tools that you feel like are really key to what you do. I know you said Zywave. Give me 2 more technology tools that are really key to what you do.
So Zywave, and I love Insured Minds.
Okay.
Insured
I'm a big Insured Mind fan.
From a just a look and feel. I love the way it looks and feel. Like I'm a lean kit. I'm a Six Sigma guy, so I love looking at a Kanban board, and that's what the deal board on that looks like to me. So it totally makes sense. And then I don't have to guess. When I go into an agent who already has Insured Mind, I can put some things in there, and I tell them, look, there's no more guessing. You're going to know your metrics, and I'm going to make sure you see your metrics because that tells you who you are. So Insured Mind and Zywave are my 2 go-tos with everything that I do. Okay.
How do you feel about Slack?
Oh, love Slack. Love Slack for sure. So I'm not an email guy, right? You can text me, you can Slack me, and you're going to get a much faster response because I only check my email twice a day.
Okay.
And I know like my company is going to hear this and they're going to say, oh, it makes sense now. If all you do is respond to emails, you're getting nothing accomplished. Like I set time on my calendar that I have check email and I have 30 minutes to go through my emails. I do it twice a day, once in the morning, once at the end of the day. Slack is by far my number 1 communication tool and organized tool.
So do your agents invite you into a Slack channel, or do you create a shared channel with your agents?
Yep. So I create it with the agency and with the producers as well. So it depends on what vertical. So if you're using me for sales management, I'll have an agent only channel. I'll have a producer only channel. Then I'll have a team channel, and we set up all of our meetings and communications in there. We post our success in there. If you have me for workforce management, I'll set up some operational things. I'll post some procedures that you can just quickly look at in there. I love the pin feature, or the create like service announcements, and we put some of your policies and procedures right there in Slack. So now you can go back and look at it. And one of the things too, and I didn't mention this, but there's always been this stigma with agency owners and business leaders with their employees. You shouldn't have your cell phone at your desk. Dude, it's 2020. I want my people to have their cell phone on their desk because customers are texting and you can have Slack. Now, I don't want you having personal calls and doing
or personal text. I want it to be business.
Exactly. So that's the one thing that I come in and talk about too, is get out of that old school mindset because, very soon in the next 3 to 4 years, millennials are going to make up 50% of our population, and they're communicating through those channels, and you've got to break that and do those channels as well.
Yeah, Slack is, my 2 featured apps on my phone are Slack and LinkedIn. Those are the 2 I live on every day, Slack and LinkedIn. So
yeah, so LinkedIn and another app that's on my phone that I wish I could take off of my phone, but I can't live without is the Cash App. I have 2 kids in college and one that's a senior in high school, and they need money every day. So I'm on the Cash App like 3 or 4 times a day for no apparent reason.
I got you. So I'm going to wind this down. I think we've had some really good conversation today. Agents, give me 2 things, agents that we don't work with, but you want to leave them with a takeaway, something that when they shut this podcast down, they're going to walk away and go, I can go do that. Give me 2 things that you would tell them right now to go do, and then I'll give them 2 things to do as well.
So first thing, evaluate your staff. Evaluate your staff from a high level. Are your people who you need them to be, right? And then the second takeaway is you need processes, procedures in place, because without that, you can't get to your goals without processes, procedures.
Got you. So my 2 takeaways are going to be a little more user-based. Mine is, first and foremost, set up the appropriate email templates in your agency management system. Because the things that you think your people are saying, they're not saying. Okay?
True.
They're not asking for referrals the way you think they are. They're not pointing out policy weaknesses the way you think they are. They're not mentioning the fact that this customer could do easy pay and solve a lot of their problems the way that you think they are. They're just not doing it. But email and text message will say all of those things. Email doesn't have a headache. It doesn't take a day off. It doesn't have a mood. It doesn't get hungry and go to lunch. I mean, it doesn't. So set up your email templates first, and then put those email templates behind a link so that you can text message those email templates as well. Get permission from your customer. I'm not telling you just blast everybody, but if I have an endorsement email, there should be an endorsement. There should be a text with the link to that endorsement email. If I'm sending out a renewal reminder, there should be an email that is behind a link, and I should be able to text that link that says, here's your renewal reminder, and go from there. And I'm gonna throw one more in there. An appointment scheduling tool. If you're not scheduling appointments instead of letting the phone decide what your day should be, or letting email decide what your day should be, you're going to be lost. Okay, you got to take control of your day. Would you agree with those things?
Totally agree. And so now I'll add my 2 takeaways now.
Okay, go ahead.
So to go on to what you say, record phone calls.
Okay.
And screen record. If you can get technology that can record your employee screens, it's not invading privacy, but a lot of agents don't know what their employees are doing. And I walk into places all the time and I hear, well, Sally says she's busy all day, but I don't know what she's doing. Record phone calls and screen record.
Yep. Those 2 things will do well for you. Well, Mick, I'm very excited to have you on as a guest today. And guys, Mick is an amazing person. I love when I had a conversation with him. I love that energy that he brought. I'm honored that you said, Mick, you've been watching what I do all these years, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Mick, how does a person get in contact with you? I'm going to go back to your screen over here. And how would they get in contact with you?
So a couple of ways. So my email is mhunt, HUNT, at iianc.com. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give out my cell phone number.
Okay.
Area code 864-979-4780. Call me, text me anytime. But before I do get off, I do, again, want to sincerely say thank you to Dr. Billy Williams. You've been a mentor for me from afar. I'm glad that we finally have been able to connect in person, because now I feel like I can tell you that you're my mentor, so you can charge me for it. but you know, I truly do appreciate what you're doing for our industry, what you're doing for me on an individual basis. Truly appreciate you. And guys, if you are not connected with Dr. Billy Williams on LinkedIn, follow him. He gives out some amazing inspiration, and he's going to give you the truth. And you got to be able to handle the truth. And that's why I love this guy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Mick, you have a great day. For those of you that are listening to this podcast, hopefully you've already registered for your seat at the Fix My Insurance Agency workshop. Mick, you're going to be at our workshop this year, right?
In February, I'm
in
there.
February of 20. When I don't know when they're going to hear this recording, but February of 2020, Mick's going to be there. We're going to have a lot of other folks that are going to be coming, leaders within our industry, not just agents. Yes, we want agents. It's an agent workshop. It's a implementation workshop. But I'm honored to have leaders like Mick coming in, because we'll share in those ideas and share in those thoughts and make everybody better, because this industry is an amazing industry that makes a lot of money and makes a lot of people's lives better. You know, at the end of the day, when you have a major calamity, yeah, the church might be there for a week or two with some food, and you know, you may get whatever, but your insurance carrier is going to be there with a check that hopefully is big enough to give you some semblance of normalcy in your life. And a good agent is the reason that check is the size that it is when you get it. So we want to make sure that we're really impacting people's lives. So Mick, thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in February.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.